Tov, everyone, and for at least a little bit longer, Chodesh Tov for the month of Sivan. This is Rosh Chodesh. It's good to have everyone here. It is Tuesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east coast of the United States in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars. Therefore, it must be the Shul Study Hall. And I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. Let's see who we got in the chat. We've got John. We've got Daniel and Brooke. We've got Benjamin. We have got David. And Max. Guten Abend. And Yair. And Shoshi. And I don't know if Shlomo is back yet or not. And NatCat07. And Shlomo from allfaith.com are all with us this evening. So, and I'm sure there'll be others who are joining us who will be fashionably late, as usual. We are continuing our study of the Code of Jewish Law, the Shulchan Aruch. We are using the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch by Rabbi Solomon Gansfried from 1961. And if you do not have the Shulchan Aruch or the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch or some way, shape, manner, or form of it, if you look down just below the video in the description, you may have to click on the See More. But there is a link there to a website that has the Shulchan Aruch that Benjamin was gracious enough to put up for us so that those of you who do not have the Sefer can follow along. So Shlomo is going to be home this evening. And for those of you who don't know that Shlomo's father just passed away here last week. So he has been with his family as he should be. And Shoshi has been holding down the farm because that does need to be done. Okay. So we left off on chapter, I believe, chapter 9. And, coincidentally enough, this would be paragraph 9. Chapter 9, paragraph 9. 9 and 9 is 18. 18 is the number for Chai. Chai is life. It's a good place to start, right? Okay. So we have been talking about the talit and the tzitzits. And this is where we are going to pick up this evening. So, as I said, this is paragraph 9 in chapter 9, volume 1. The benediction over the tzitzit should be pronounced only during the day and not during the night. Care should be taken not to say it before one is able to distinguish between the blue and white. If one puts on the small talit, or the arba kafot, or the talit katan, while it is still night, or while one's hands are still unwashed. Remember, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago about getting up in the morning, and the first thing that we do is to wash the hands because of, the evil inclination that takes over the body during the night, and the last place that it clings to is the hands, so therefore we wash the hands first thing without saying the brucha. Okay. So while one's hands are still unwashed, when no benediction may be said over it, then upon putting on the large talit, the talit gadol, one should have in mind to include the small talit as well. If one has no large talit, which There are a lot of people out there who can't afford the large talit. If one has no large talit, then upon putting on the small talit in the daytime, when with hands already washed, one should say over it the benediction al mitzvah tzitzit, concerning the commandment of the tzitzit. If one puts on the small talit when no benediction may be said over it, and then when it is already day and one's hands are washed, this would be like somebody who gets up before sunrise, like a lot of farmers do and stuff like that, or Benjamin because he just doesn't sleep that well at night. Abigail has joined us. Good to have you with us. Okay, so we would get up and wash the hands, of course, and put on the small talit, but not say the benediction over it. And then when one goes to pray, then obviously one washes their hands and says the benediction. So at that point, that's what they're talking about. That's what we're getting into here. If one puts on a small talit when no benediction may be said over it, it is already daytime and one's hands are washed, one should take the fringes in one hand and say the benediction al mitzvah tzitzit. If one sleeps with the small talit on, now, I would advise against this. Okay, I used to do this myself. Until one night when the talit katan got all tangled up and nearly strangled me. At that point I said that the preservation of life must take precedent. So I no longer wear the small talit to bed as I used to. And I would advise against it. It's very easy for that to happen. Considering that the sides are open and everything, that it very easily can get tangled in in the headboard or something, and the next thing you know, you wake up and you're turning as blue as the blue on your talit, Okay, so, Susan Connor has joined us. Good to have you with us, Susan. Okay. So anyway, if one sleeps with the small talit on, as I said, I would suggest against it. One should say no benediction over it in the morning. But upon saying the benediction over the large talit, one should have in mind to include the small one as well. If one takes off the talit, intending to put it on again soon, even if one went to the lavatory. So, like if you were at the Shacharit service, you're doing the Shacharit prayers, the morning prayers and stuff, and you have the talit on, and you intend to come back later on and do the mincha prayers, which is still during the daylight, still permissible to wear. So if that was your intent, then when you put it back on, it's not necessary to say the benediction again. So if one takes off the talit intending to put it on again soon, even if one went to the lavatory, say the benediction about putting it on again. But, there's always a but, if one does not intend to put it on again, soon again, and thereafter one changes one's mind and puts it on again, one must repeat the benediction. It's all about intent. If you did not intend to put it back on, then if you decide to put it back on, then you need to say the benediction again. Now here's an interesting one. This happens to a lot of people. We've all seen it happen. And this is exactly why I wear the talit clips. for just this reason, if the talit slips off the back, but a part of it still remains on the body, even though most of it fell off, there is no need to repeat the benediction upon adjusting it. But if no part of it was left on the body, even though one is holding onto it with the hands, the benediction must be repeated upon putting it on. 4. The intent of the precept is not that we should hold the talit in our hands, but that we should enfold our bodies with it. If the talit falls off while reciting a prayer, which may not be interrupted, one should not say the benediction upon adjusting it, but after finishing the prayer, one takes the tzitzit in his hands and says the benediction. Mitzvot tzitzit. Paragraph 11. It is permissible to occasionally to borrow the talit belonging to someone else, even without his knowledge, to pray in it and say benedictions, because it is presumed that a person is glad if the precept is performed with his property when no pecuniary loss is involved. So, in other words, we should automatically expect that if someone borrows a talit, puts it on, and sends a benediction or says the prayers or something like that, we should be happy about it. And the person should not feel guilty about having to, use the talit without permission, because he would automatically assume that the person who owns the talit would be overjoyed that somebody was using his talit to say the prayers or the benedictions, because it's a great mitzvah to be able to enable somebody to perform a mitzvah. So, never deny a person the opportunity to perform a mitzvah. Okay, so, but the talit is not to be carried out of the premises, if you don't own it, because the owner might object to that, as you can imagine. If the talit was folded, the borrower must leave it folded. On the Sabbath, the borrower need not fold it, for since no talit may be folded on the Sabbath, the owner will forgive him. If he borrowed somebody's talit for the purpose of going up to the reading of the Torah, it is doubtful whether one must say a benediction over it. The borrower should therefore have it in mind that he does not intend to acquire even temporary possession of the talit, and in such event, all authorities agree that no benediction need be said. But if one takes a talit belonging to the congregation, which many synagogues do have. Many synagogues have talit hanging in the or folded over a rail or in an antler room or something like that, where people who don't have a talit can come in and they can freely use them. I mean, we have them here in the shul. We have extra ones here just in case somebody comes and wants to be here at the services, that we have a talit for them. Okay, so, but if one takes a talit belonging to the congregation, even if only for the purpose of going up to the reading of the Torah, one must say the benediction because it is considered like his own property. The word wool, mentioned either in the Torah or by the legal authorities, ordinarily means either lamb's wool or ram's wool. And here we go, we're going to talk about the warp and the woof. Remember we had this conversation before that I believe the warp is this way and the woof is this way. And we actually had people in the chat room that actually Yair was the one that actually knew exactly what a warp and a woof was. Which surprised me to no end. Okay, so if the warp of the top is of wool and the woof is cotton or silk, or if the woof is of wool and the warp is of another kind, a God-fearing man should not pronounce the benediction over such talit, because that constitutes shatnetz, right? A combination of different fibers. Some authorities hold that even if the tzitzits on the talit are of diverse fabrics, one may not say the benediction over such a talit. If the talit is of silk and the fringes of wool, one is not allowed to say the benediction over it, but one must first say the benediction over a woolen talit, and then one may remove it and put on the silk one. However, a benediction may be said over a silk talit with silk tzitzits. Okay, this all goes into all these intricacies in the law. Okay, if some of the tzitzits are of wool and some of silk, it is still worse. No tzitzit should ever be made in this manner. Okay. Paragraph 13. If one part of the 4 threads, which are folded to form eight fringes, has been torn off, and there is enough left of it to make a loop the size of 4 thumb breadths, or even if part of 2 threads have been torn off, and 4 thumb breadths is left of each, then the other 2 threads are perfect. Such tzitzits are valid. Okay, so just because part of your tzitzit falls off, as long as it fulfills the requirement here, then they may still be used. But if have been damaged, even though there is 4 thumb breadths left at each, and the 4th one is perfect, or if only 1 thread has been damaged so that less than a thumb breadth is left of it, even though the remaining 3 threads are perfect, the tzitzits are unfit. It follows that if one of the 8 fringes has been even entirely torn off to the very links, the tzitzits are valid beyond any doubt, since in reality this is only 1/2 of the thread. It's good to know. And if the other half, there is still enough left to make a loop with. If 2 of the fringes have been torn off and less than 4 thumb breadths is left of each, the tzitzits are rendered unfit, since it is likely that the 2 torn fringes belong to the same thread. However, if one is certain that they belong to 2 different threads, as for instance when tying the tzitzit, one has always been careful to tie 4 ends of one side and 4 ends of the other side, which is typically how it's done. so that there is that separation there, never mixing them up. And now the two fringes have been torn off, or both on one side of the knot, then these two fringes surely belong to the other group of four, and since there is still left of each thread no less than the length of 4 thumb breadths, the other side of the knot, and the remaining two threads that are perfect, and the tzitzit are considered valid. If one of the threads is torn where it is inserted to the aperture, to the beged, the tzitzits are rendered unfit. The law that if one thread is torn off and that there is enough left of it with which to make a loop, the tzitzits are still valid, is true only when all the threads have been of the prescribed length when originally put in. But if at the time of putting the tzitzits on one of the threads is shorter than the prescribed length, no matter to what extent, the tzitzits are unfit for the purpose. Just catching up here on the chat. Okay. Paragraph 14. The threads of the tzitzits must be twisted, and if any threads have become untwisted, the untwisted part is considered as entirely cut off and non-existent. It's as if they had been ripped right off. Paragraph 15. At times, a talit consists of two parts, as in the case with many of our taliot, fringed garments. Occasionally, such a talit is taken apart for washing or mending it, and after that, it is joined again by means of a seam. Now, I've never seen that before. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. There isn't any out there, but I just have never seen it. If each part, if each part is large enough to wrap oneself with it, then it suffices to remove the two tzitzits from either of the parts, and after joining the two parts together, the tzitzits may be put on again. Hence probably why I've never seen them. That would be a major inconvenience. But if each part is not large enough to wrap oneself with it, the tzitzits from both parts must be removed. If one part is large enough and the other part is not, then the tzitzits should be removed from the smaller part. Paragraph 16. Some authorities are of the opinion that if a corner was severed from the talit and the severed piece measures less than 3 thumb breadths square, then even though this piece is sewn on the talit, it is unfit to put the tzitzit in it, because the detached piece measures less than 3 thumb breadths square, cannot legally be called garment. And even when attached to the talit, it is still considered as considered in the eyes of the law as severed. And it is proper to follow this opinion. But if the piece torn off is not entirely severed from the talit, then the sewing it on makes it part of the talit itself, and the tzitzit put in afterward are valid. It is customary to sew on a piece of extra cloth to the corners of the talit, as we've all seen with all our talits, talit seam, because there are many garments, even new ones, that are made up of several pieces joined together, measuring less than 3 thumb breadths square. Therefore, we put on a piece of the cloth measuring 3 thumb breadths square in the place where the tzitzits are put. And this is to reinforce the garment, to keep it from the tzitzit being pulled out of the beggar, and or to be, as we were talking about how they can be pulled and the hole made longer and so on and so forth. Well, this is put on there to keep that from happening, so that the talit remains kosher as long as possible. Checking on the chat room. Not a lot of chatting going on there tonight. Okay. Let's see. I think we are on. We did 17. Okay. Oh, okay. We're on 17. Okay. Some authorities are of opinion that in the entire area of the corner where the tzitzit may be inserted, that is, from the edge above the width of the first phalanx of the thumb, up to 3 thumb breadths, no seam, no matter how small, should be made of thread which is suitable for the tzitzit of this particular talit. For instance, I'm glad there's a for instance in here. If the talit is of flax, we must not make a seam with flax thread, only with silk threads. Or if the talit is of silk, no silk threads may be used. And if the talit is of wool, no wool threads may be used, only silk threads, or the like. It is proper to observe this rule of law also as regards the seam made to strengthen the apertures, the holes in the talit where we put the tzitzits through. All these laws apply only to the case where white thread is being used. But if colored thread is used, it does not matter. That would be the techelet, right? One may remove the tzitzit from the talit in order to replace them with better ones, or if one of the threads has been cut, has been torn off, and one desires to put imperfect ones in their place, although the first ones are still fit. This is permissible because one does not intend to free the talit of the requirement of tzitzits. On the contrary, one intends to put in better ones to beautify the mitzvot. But one must take care not to throw out the discarded tzitzits into a filthy place. Usually when I replace tzitzits, I usually take the old ones and I usually use them as bookmarks. Usually in the Tanakh or a tikkun or whatever, or any kind of a Jewish book. I'll use it as a bookmark just to make sure that it's not, put into a filthy place. Kind of like when you replace the ratzuah, the straps on the tefillin. You can't discard them into a filthy place either. And I got them in my lectern there from the last time I replaced them. They're sitting there, and that's where they'll stay. Okay. 19. Even tzitzits that fall off and are removed from the talit must not be thrown into a rubbish heap, because we slight thereby a divine command. Some people are strict about discard tzitzits and place them in a book to serve as a bookmark, just as I do. Because since they have once been used for the performance of a precept, let another precept be performed with them. Nor must one make any unworthy use of an old talit which no longer used for the performance of a religious duty. So don't take an old talit and turn it into a tablecloth or a picnic tablecloth or something to put on the ground so you can sit at the concert or something like that. Okay. Oh, the talit cannot be made of mixed fibers, but sewing it can be. Well, it depends on what the fibers are, right? Wool and linen, right? Okay. Paragraph 20. If, upon entering the synagogue on the Sabbath, one discovers one of the tzitzits in his talit has become unfit, and he is unable to procure another talit, and one feels embarrassed to remain there without a talit, since it is impossible on this day to replace it by another tzitzit, one may, as a matter of decorum, put on the talit as it is without saying the benediction over it. Because the last thing we want to do is to embarrass somebody in front of the congregation. So in this case, if this is the case where the person just comes into the shul and discovers that, oh my goodness, my tzitzits are not kosher, he can still wear it as long as he doesn't say the benediction with it. That way he won't be embarrassed in front of the congregation. This rule of law applies only to the case where one was not aware of it before the Sabbath. But if one has been aware of it before the Sabbath, but failed to take care of it, one is not allowed to put it on now. That's why it's always good to have more than one talit. Paragraph 21. He who puts on a garment requiring tzitzits, and he neglects to do so, is guilty of violating a command of the Torah. Garments having 4 square corners, one of these corners must be cut off and made round in order not to require tzitzit. But one does not exempt the garment from tzitzit by simply folding up one of the corners and sewing it up, for as long as it has not been cut off, it is still considered a part of the garment. Severe is the punishment for one who neglects to perform the divine command in putting on the tzitzit. He who is scrupulous in performing this commandment will be worthy of beholding the divine presence. Okay. We're on to chapter 10. And now we're getting into the tefillin, or as some call it, the phylacteries. I don't like to use that term. It's a Greek term. I don't particularly care for it. The tefillin is exactly the right term, and we should refer to it as the tefillin. Because tefillin are tefillin because they are called tefillin. Okay. And that's a Kabbalah question. Okay, so if you get it, I think some of you, I've talked about this before. Some of you probably remember it. Okay. Paragraph 1. The divine command regarding tefillin is likewise a very precious precept, because the whole Torah is compared to the tefillin. As it is written in Exodus chapter 13, verse 9, in order that the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. They who fail to put on the tefillin are reckoned the transgressors of Israel, who sin with their bodies because they refuse to subject their bodies to the worship of the Almighty. They who put on defective tefillin not only fail to observe the divine command, but also utter many benedictions in vain, which constitutes a grave crime. Which is why it's always a good idea to inspect your tefillin on a regular basis. Make sure that they remain kosher, even the straps. Okay, therefore, we must take care to buy our tefillin from a competent and God-fearing scribe. Because inside the tefillin are parchment with verses of the Torah written on them. Okay, so we have to have it done by a scribe who knows what they're doing. And I guess Reb Moshe from I Love Torah does this also on the side, which is wonderful mitzvah. I myself have never done it. I am not competent enough to actually write them out. It takes a lot of practice. Okay, they must also buy the straps for the tefillin from a trustworthy person to be sure that they were prepared for this particular purpose from the skin of a clean animal. But due to our woeful shortcomings, this gross blunder is on the increase, in that people generally buy their tefillin and their straps from anyone who sells them cheaply, although they are unfit. That's why I always buy my straps from Stam. Every and these days, there's no reason to be able to buy them, not be able to buy kosher tefillin. Because they make them in, there are 3 grades of them, and I don't want to say the lowest grade. Let's say the most cost-effective grade they're made from a kosher animal. They are made as prescribed. They are joined together, small pieces joined together, which is perfectly all right. And they are perfectly kosher. However, you must take extra care with them. You have to be careful with them, to make sure they don't get damaged, and they will wear out after a while. Unlike if you were buying a very nice kosher set that might last generations. If you're buying a less expensive set, which these days, tefillin are expensive. If you buy a very nice set of tefillin, they can be awfully expensive. I've seen them anywhere from $400 to $800. Okay, so it's not unusual for people to buy the less expensive ones, but then again, you just need to take a little more care, just to make sure that you're careful with them when you use them, and careful with them when you're putting them away, and that you check them often to make sure that they are still kosher, that they're not nicked or missing any paint on the straps or anything like that. Even every God-fearing person should consider that this. If he is spending money liberally for his clothes and utensils so that they may be the right kind, how much more then should he be doing with the objects required by the Almighty, blessed be his name? He should not economize and worry about money, but buy those holy objects only when certain that they are fit for the purpose, although the price may be high. He should always take care of the tefillin, that they be in proper condition, and that the cases and the straps be black. Now, there are cases where it's just due natural wearing and of them, they get some of the paint comes off, and you can go to Stam or some of the other places that sell kosher tefillin, and they will sell you a paint pen that you can use to repair them yourself. I mean, if you've ever seen a very old pair of tefillin, and you look on the back of the strap where it's not finished, right? And you see a bunch of black marks and stuff on them. It's very common. See a lot of black marks on it and stuff like that. You know that somebody is taking care of these tefillin. You know, there's been a little nick or something like that, and they got some paint and filled in the empty spot. It is proper to smear the straps with a little oil so that they are always black. But the oil must not come from a non-kosher fish. So in other words, fish oil. Okay, you got that, guys? Fish oil. So if your straps are very stiff, then fish oil might be a way to do it. I mean, any straps, you know, after wrapping them so often, they're going to soften up. But okay, if the tefillin become defective, even in the slightest degree, or if the stitches become loose, we should immediately consult a competent scholar to ascertain whether they are still fit. We must particularly be careful regarding the edges of the cases, and especially so that the edges of the one of the head, because these generally become frayed and form holes thereon, as a result of which they were rendered unfit from the constant putting them on and taking them off. Very frequently, when the tefillin become old, some part of the upper skin of the tefillin of the head becomes separated, as a result of which the tefillin are rendered unfit. It is therefore important that we take great care regarding this matter. If we are careful in performing the precept of the tefillin and treat the tefillin with respect, our days will be prolonged, and we are certain of having a share in the world to come, as it is written in Isaiah 28:16, O Lord, by these things men will live, and in all these things is the life of my spirit. So wilt thou give me health and cause me to live. The word tefillin connotates judgment and admonition, because the tefillin serve as evidence and convincing proof that the divine presence rests on us, as it is written in Deuteronomy 28 verse 10, and all the nations of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord. And our rabbis of blessed memory explain that this refers to the tefillin on the head, upon which is embossed the letter Shin, the first letter spelling out the word Shaddai, which means Almighty. Therefore it is forbidden to cover entirely the tefillin of the head with the talit. So the talit should come up just to the back of the tefillin. Shouldn't cover up the tefillin completely. Now there are some minhag out there in the Middle East where they will put on the tefillin and they will put their turban back on. And you won't even see the tefillin except for the straps coming down. So again, here we have another example of Ashkenazic tradition versus other traditions. The other thing with the difference between Ashkenazic and Sephardic tradition is the tefillin. Once the tefillin shal yad is put on, that the talit is pulled down over top of them and covers the tefillin shal yad up to the wrist. Okay. The time for putting on tefillin begins from about that hour of the morning when a man can recognize his neighbor with whom he is slightly acquainted at a distance of 4 cubits. So 4 cubits being what? 6 feet, right? And how many times has it been? 4 cubits. 4 cubits. We see this over and over again. 4 cubits. Miriam, good to see you with us. Oh, she said the chat wasn't working, so she had to switch to the desktop. Well, I'm glad you made it anyway. Okay. Okay, we've got... yeah, we're a little past our halfway point. We'll finish this one, then we'll take our break. The tefillin are put on after the talit. The reason the tzitzits have precedence over the tefillin is that the precept of the tzitzits is to be performed daily, including Sabbaths and festivals, while the precept of tefillin is to be performed on weekdays only. And this rule is well established, that the precept which is observed regularly takes precedent over the precept which is not observed regularly. However, if one happens to take hold of the tefillin first, although they are still in the bag, one must put them on first and then enfold oneself with the talit, because a mitzvah must not be passed by, as it is written, and ye shall observe the matzot, and read instead mitzvot, commandments. That is, if an opportunity to perform a divine command presents itself, do not allow it to sour by delaying its performance. Okay. So we're going to take our break now. And when we return, we will continue reading about the laws of the tefillin. So let me get everything queued up here. I'm getting a little better at this. I probably shouldn't say that, because the minute that I say that, something will happen and it'll get all goofed up. So we'll see how it works here. Okay, so we'll take our break, and we will be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies. Everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. the show.
And we are back. I'll thank everybody for sticking around through the break. Okay. We are on chapter 10. And we are on paragraph 3. And we are talking about the tefillin. Okay, well, let's see what's going on in the chat room. Okay, so, paragraph 3. It is written in Exodus 13:16, and it shall be a sign upon thy hand. Hebrew, Yadcha, written with the sulfurous letter K at the end of the word. Our rabbis of blessed memory said that this is to be interpreted to mean Yad Keha, the left hand, which is weaker and feebler. We must put on tefillin and elevate on the elevated part of the bicep, which is here. Now, if you're left-handed, you would wrap on the right hand. Okay. As it is written in Deuteronomy, therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart, which means that it shall be put physically opposite the heart. Therefore, we must place the tefillin in the place mentioned and incline it slightly toward the side, so that when our left arm is down, the tefillin would be on a level with the heart. So actually about 2 fingers up from the crook of your arm is where the tefillin should be. Regarding the tefillin on the head, it is written, between your eyes, and our rabbis of blessed memory received it by tradition that it does not mean literally between the eyes, but on the head midway between the eyes. So, here. And in a place from where the hair begins to grow, or where it used to grow for some of our friends out there. Okay, up to the spot where the child's skull is soft, which means that the lower edge of the tefillah should not be lower than the place where the hair begins to grow, and the upper edge should not be higher than the place where a child's skull is soft. Great care should be taken to watch that the tefillah should always lie in its proper place. Even if only a small part of the tefillah is on the forehead where no head grows, or where no hair usually grows, or if it inclines to one side and is not exactly midway between the eyes, the precept is not fulfilled, and these benediction is pronounced in vain. Okay. You will see a lot of Haredi men will carry a small mirror in their tefillin case so that they can make sure that it is exactly centered. I pretty much know how, through putting them on for years, exactly when they are centered. Just by feeling the edges and coming down and feeling where I don't want to do that to the book because I'll break the spine on it, and this thing is very old and has stood up to it, so I am not going to mess with it. Okay, so typically when I put them on, I do this so that I know that it is at the hairline, and then when I come down on the sides, I can feel where the edges are in relationship to my finger and I can tell whether it's centered or not. That's how I do it. You may want to use a mirror. That's up to you. I'm not here to tell you how to do it. Okay, so the knot in the strap must be placed on the back of the head, above the nape of the neck, at the base of the skull, and the tefillah must not incline either toward one side or the other. Again, the knot in the strap should be in the center, not to one side or the other. And again, that's pretty easy to tell, because if you feel back there, you can feel exactly where that bone comes down, and you can tell whether your knot is in the right spot or not. The strap should be fastened on the head, but when the case of the case and the base are wide, it is difficult to have it tightened properly. It is therefore urgent to be very careful regarding this matter. Okay, so once you've had them tied and you've put them on a number of times and you've adjusted them until you get it just about right and stuff like that, and unless your head shrinks, or the straps will loosen up in time, so they have to be adjusted from time to time. So, but after a few years, they're pretty well stretched as far as they're going to go, and they'll always be, the right length for your head, unless your head changes. I don't know. I guess it could happen. Okay. Paragraph 4. The tefillin must be put on while standing. One must not shake the tefillin out of the bag, because it is an act of contempt toward the mitzvah, but must be taken out with the hand. Now, put on while standing. And again, difference between Ashkenazic and Sephardic custom. Ashkenazic, stand and put on the tefillin. Sephardim, put on the tefillin shel yad while sitting down, and they put on the tefillin shel rosh while standing up, and then they will sit down to finish tying the tefillin shel yad. Unless you're of that minhag where they completely tie the tefillin shel yad first and then put on the tefillin shel rosh. We must put on the tefillin on the hand, and before tightening the knot, we must say the benediction. And again, I wish I would put this would write this in the Hebrew, so it would be l'chania tefillin, to put on the tefillin. When we tighten the knot and make several coils on our forearm, thereafter we put on the tefillin on the head, and therefore we tighten it and say the benediction al mitzvah tefillin, concerning the commandment of tefillin. And again, Ashkenazic and Sephardic custom. Sephardim say one blessing for the entire thing, considering it one mitzvah, and Ashkenazi say two. They say one for the tefillin shel yad and one for the tefillin shel rosh. When we tighten the strap on our head and say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed, blessed be He, blessed be His glorious kingdom forever and ever. And that's the same thing we'd say, because they're not sure, is it one or is it two? So anytime we make a mistake when we're saying a bracha, that's how we do it, because we don't want to utter a bracha in vain. So we'll just say, oh my goodness, I'm saying the wrong one, and then we'll just stop and say we'll say the Brucha, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed, and we will then go back and pronounce the right one that we had intended to. Okay, so this is a case where we're not really sure, is it one or two, so to just in case we put on the one on the head, we say that brucha that we would normally say just in case. Okay. The reason for saying the last verse is because there is some doubt whether the benediction should be said. Because of this uncertainty, it is also doubtful whether or not a listener is bound to respond Amen to it. It seems to me, therefore, that this benediction should be uttered silently. After we put on the tefillin on the hand, we make 3 coils on the middle finger, around 1, the middle phalanx, and 2 around the lower phalanx. Okay, so that would be 1 here and 2 here. Okay, and I am not flipping you off. Okay. And there are other customs where they'll do 1 here, and then they'll wrap 2 fingers with the last 2. There's many ways of putting on the tefillin. There are many different traditions for putting on tefillin. So you should check it out and see. I think I just put up something in the their alt-way group that talks about this. Excuse me. I think there's some conversation going on about the Techelet. Okay. People think that the blue thread is something that's new. That on the tzitzits, that people just started recently doing this, and that's actually not true. It actually goes back to the 1600s. People were actually using the blue thread in their tzitzits. I know the Breslovers particularly insisted on having the blue thread. Okay, so let's see, where was I? I was here somewhere. Okay, so, while standing, okay. So we're on paragraph 5. If one happens to take from the bag the tefillin of the head first, one must put it down, cover it up, and put on the tefillah of the hand first. Since the precedent of the tefillah is the hand over the one of the head is ordained by the Torah, as is written in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 8, and thou shalt bind them as a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be frontlets between thy eyes. Hence, we are to disregard in this case the apparent neglect of a religious object. So that's why we should always put the tefillin in the bag in a way that we always know which one we are taking out. Now, if you've seen tefillin wrapped, and I just had somebody who was asking me a question the other day on this, that what's the proper way to wrap the tefillin when you're putting them away? And again, there's numerous ways. But I've seen tefillin that were basically the only way you could tell the difference between them when they were wrapped up was because one had the cover on it that said Shel Rosh and the other one Shel Yad on there. Otherwise, it was very difficult to tell the difference between them. I mean, if you just reached in and grabbed, you wouldn't be able to tell which one it was unless you were of a habit that, one was always on this side and the other one was always on that side. Okay? There are other minhag of wrapping them up and putting them away so that they're very distinctive. So that when you reach in and you touch them, you immediately know which one is which. And that's the way I wrap mine. Mine, I can always tell which one is which, and I also make sure that I put them in the same way every single time into the tefillin bag. I always know which one is on which side. But just in case, I have them wrapped uniquely. Each one of them is uniquely wrapped so that I know which one, just by touching it, I know which one is Shel Yad and which one is Shel Rosh. And because of the questions that have been asked about it, just like I did the video about how I put it on the talit, I'm going to do a video on how I put my tefillin away so that people can see how I actually do it, so that I can tell immediately which one is which. It's actually pretty close to the way the Moroccans do theirs. So if you ever get a chance to see a video, I don't know if there is one out there. I think there might be one out there that shows how in Morocco how they wrap their tefillin up, and it's like I said, it's you can tell immediately which one is which. You don't even have to look at it. All you have to do is touch it, and you know. Okay. Paragraph 6. Nothing must intervene between the flesh and the tefillin, and it makes no difference whether one. See, here's a good one for you guys that are a little hair challenged up there. Okay, you have nothing in between. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, some of us have to cut our hair to make sure that it's kept short enough so that we have that. Okay, some of you guys are lucky. Don't worry about it. I'm trying to make you feel better, guys. Okay. Nothing must intervene between the flesh and the tefillin, and it makes no difference whether it is on the hand or the head. Short hair is not considered an interruption, since it is customary to wear the hair like that. But a thick tuft of hair not only indicates brazenness and vanity, but it also constitutes an imposition between the head and the tefillah. Hence why we keep our hair short, very short. Okay. Paragraph 7. Care should be taken that the knot of the tefillah of the hand should not be shifted from the case, even when the knot, okay. Shifted from the case, even when in the bag. And the yad of the knot must always be facing the heart. The base of the strap is inserted should be upward, and the case downward. In an emergency, for instance, when a left-handed person who puts on the tefillin on the right hand has no tefillin of his own, and he borrows from a person who puts it on his left, if he is unable to change the knot, and he puts them on as they are, with the base toward the base upward and the case downward, then the yad and the knot will be facing outward. In such a case, he may invert the tefillah and put it on with the base being downward and the case upward. The yad and the knot may be facing the heart. Okay, that's a long way to go. Number 8. No conversation is permitted between the putting on the tefillah of the hand and that of the head. And if you do, you have to say a bracha. Okay. It is even forbidden to wink the eye or motion with the hand. For it is written, Exodus 13, chapter 13, verse 9, and it shall be unto thee for a sign upon thy hand and for a memorial between thy eyes. It is necessary that a memorial must be instantaneous between the tefillah of the hand and that of the head, so that both of them may constitute one unit. Even if we hear the Kaddish or the Kiddushah, we must not interrupt to respond with the congregation. We must keep silent and listen to what the worshipers say. If, however, we hear someone utter the benediction, Lechania Tefillah, to put on the tefillin, we should respond Amen to it, because this Amen is a corroboration that we believe in the precept of the tefillin, and therefore not an interruption. When putting on the tefillin, arranged according to the view of Rabbano Tam, it is likewise forbidden to interrupt between putting on the tefillin on the hand and that of the head, but it may be interrupted with response to the Kaddish or the Kiddushah. Paragraph 9. Okay. If by error we do interrupt, we must touch the tefillah of the hand, repeat the benediction, l'chania tefillah, tefillin, tighten the knot, and thereafter put on the tefillin on the head and say the required benediction. If, however, the interruption has been for the need of the tefillin, in other words, straighten it out, adjust it, whatever, we need not repeat the benediction, because we were interrupting it to make sure that we were performing it correctly. Okay. Paragraph 10. When we put on the tefillin, we must reflect that by doing this, we fulfill the commandment of the Holy One, blessed be He, who has commanded us to do so. The tefillin contain 4 sections of the Torah, which speak of the unity of God, blessed be He, blessed be His name, and of the exodus of the Israelites from the land of Egypt. The tefillin are put on the arm nearest the heart and on the head near the brain, or where the brain should be, in order that we should always remember the miracles and wonders that He wrought for us, which signify His unity and His might and dominion over those who are above and below, who can do with them as He pleases. Also, that we should submit to Him both the soul which resides in the brain and the heart, which is the seat of our desires and passions. In doing so, we become mindful of our Creator, restrain our pleasures, and also fulfill that which is written in Numbers chapter 15:39, and that ye seek not after the inclination of your heart and the delight of your own soul. This is the reason why concerning the tefillin it is written, between thy eyes. The tefillin on the hand and of the head are 2 separate and distinct precepts, and the inability to observe one does not bar the observance of the other. Therefore, if we have only one tefillah available, or if by reason of some accident that we are able to put on only one, we are bound to put that one on. If it is the one for the hand, we say the benediction, l'chaliyah tefillah, to put on the tefillin. But if it is the one for the head, we say both benedictions, l'chaliyah tefillin and al mitzvah tefillin. And we say the Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Blessed be He, blessed be His glorious kingdom forever and ever. A fully left-handed man, although he has become left-handed by mere habit, must put on tefillin on the right hand, which is equivalent to everyone's left. If he does all his work with his right hand, but he writes with his left, or vice versa, then the hand which he writes is considered the right one, and the tefillah is placed on the other. An ambidextrous person puts the tefillah on the left hand. A man not born left-handed, who has accustomed himself to right left, but all his work with his right hand, must bind the tefillah to the left hand. The prescribed width of the strap, whether of the tefillah of the head or of the hand, is no less than the length of a barley. The prescribed length of both straps for the tefillah of the head is to reach down to a man's navel or a trifle above that. There is no opinion that holds that the strap on the right side should reach down below a man's abdomen, and it is proper to follow the stricter view in the first instance. The strap of the tefillah of the hand should be long enough to make 7 coils around the arm and 3 windings around the middle finger, with enough left to tighten it. If the strap be torn, whether it be of the head or the hand, an authority should be consulted. Now, Sephardic custom is that the right one for the tefillah shel rosh is longer, slightly longer than the left one. Okay. And that it be tucked into either the belt or the gartel. If you wear a gartel, then it would be tucked into the gartel. That essentially keeps them laying flat. There is an opinion that holds that the strap on the right hand should reach down below a man's abdomen. We already did that. Okay. 14. Care should be taken that the straps always be with their black side out. If it happens that the strap around the hand or around the head becomes inverted accidentally, he must either fast or redeem himself by giving charity. If the tefillin, when not in the bag, fall to the ground, we must likewise fast. Same thing as like, if we see a Torah fall, we're supposed to fast. But if they fall down while in the bag, we need not fast, but we must give charity. If one removes the tefillin in order to go to the lavatory, one must repeat the benediction upon putting them on again. But if one has removed them in the middle of the benedictions belonging to the Shema, that is from the benediction, Yotzer, or who forms light, and onward, one must not interrupt by uttering the benediction over the tefillin, but one must wait until the reading of the Shemona Esra, the standing prayer, then touch the tefillin and say the benediction over them. Okay, we'll do one more, and then we'll call it good for this evening. Paragraph 16. As long as we have the tefillin on, our attention must not be diverted from them even for a moment, except during the Shemona Esra prayer, which and while studying the Torah. We are forbidden to eat a regular meal while having the tefillin on, but we may have light refreshments. Sleep, even for a little while wearing the tefillin, is prohibited. Okay. And we are going to stop there. And we will pick up next week on paragraph 17. Well, thank you all for being here this evening. Don't forget, tomorrow evening is the Torah study with Zeta and myself, and Shabbat services as usual, and we have Shavuot coming, so there will be Shavuot morning service on Sunday and on Monday. So be sure to check the group site or check my Facebook page for the schedule and all that. So I want to thank you all again for being here. I don't remember. I know everybody isn't listed on here, so we'll just go with what we got. And I know that the video I got queued up here is the wrong one, so we'll deal with it here in a minute. So thank you all, and we will see you. Hopefully, we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, everyone, Laila Tov. I told you it was going to be the wrong one.